Miniature Landscape Hobbies is proudly supported by these sponsors. Look at what I have here from our friends at Warcradle Studios. It's the Empire Starter Battlefleet for Dystopian Wars. Today we're going to open this up and see exactly what comes in the box and talk a little bit about how you might want to build the ships if you're starting an Empire fleet. If you've been curious about Dystopian Wars or looking for a way to start a new faction, these starter battle fleets are meant to be your entry point. Before we get into the box itself though, let's quickly talk about the game for anyone who might not be familiar with it. Dystopian Wars is a tabletop naval combat game set in the late 19th century. An alternate form of it, that is. In this world, strange new technologies and scientific breakthroughs have created a very different kind of warfare. Massive battleships clash with submarines, aircraft squadrons patrol the skies, and experimental weapons like Tesla cannons, energy shields, and bizarre mechanical constructs appear on the battlefield. The scale of the game is fleet combat. You aren't commanding just a single ship, you're directing squadrons of vessels that work together as a task force. Positioning, coordinated attacks, and timing are all really important parts of the gameplay. This particular starter fleet represents the Empire. The Empire is a huge coalition that includes Japan, China, Korea, and several other allied nations, but the ships in this box lean heavily towards the Japanese side of the faction. Inside the starter box, you'll find 3 cruisers, 6 automata escorts that look like robotic squids, 3 frigates or destroyers, 3 Doksuri fighter SRS tokens, and 3 Rin exosub tokens. So right away, you're going to get a decent little force with a mix of capital ships, small support vessels, and short-range squadron units. And importantly, once you have this box, the only other thing you really need to have to start playing is an opponent with their own fleet and a table to play on. Alright, let's start digging through the contents. Right on top we have the dice. You get both the standard action dice used for attacks and defense rolls, and the critical hit dice, which are used to determine the severity of damage when something goes really wrong for a ship. Thankfully, you get a pretty healthy number of both types, which is important because if you've played Dystopian Wars before, you know that the game involves rolling lots of dice. Next, we have the template sprue. This includes a number of tools that you'll need during gameplay. There's scenario objectives, turn counter, range rulers, and ship turning templates. So it's convenient that they're included here rather than forcing players to track them down separately. And if you look carefully, the sprue itself really does kind of look like a face. Next up, we have the Victory and Valor cards. These cards add a lot of personality to the game because they represent heroic actions, sudden tactical opportunities, or unexpected turns of fortune during a battle. During the game, you can spend these cards to trigger special effects or gain temporary advantages. They add a layer of unpredictability that helps keep battles from becoming too mechanical, and often creates memorable moments during play. After that, we have the SRS bases, which stands for Short Range Squadrons. These are used to represent things like fighter aircraft or small submersible units operating around the main ships. Here we come to the shield generator, gun battery, and SRS weapon sprues. These are essentially universal upgrade sprues used across many fleets in Dystopian Wars. They include interchangeable parts that allow you to customize your ships with things like shield generators, additional weapons, or SRS launch equipment. You might notice that some pieces of these sprues actually belong to the Covenant of the Enlightened faction. Those parts aren't needed for the Empire fleet, but they're included because each universal sprue supports 2 factions at once. Altogether, there are 4 of these universal sprues included in the box. Before we get to the ships themselves, there's also a sheet of cardboard tokens. These tokens are used during gameplay to track things like status effects, damage conditions, and special actions happening during the battle. I won't go through each of these individually here, but the important thing is that you get everything required to actually run your fleet in a game. Another nice touch here is that these tokens are part of the broader Dystopian Age system, meaning that they're compatible with other games set in the same universe, like Armored Clash and Wild West Exodus. So if you play multiple games in that setting, you'll find some shared components between them. Now we get to the main attraction, the ship sprues. Inside the box, you get 3 identical frames, and most of the space on each one is devoted to the cruiser hulls and their weapon options. Each sprue can be built as a cruiser, and the kit actually allows you to construct up to 7 different cruiser variants, each with their own weapon configurations and special abilities. That level of customization is one of the real strengths of Dystopian Wars. Even with the same models, players can build fleets that behave very differently depending on how the ships are equipped. Going through every possible variant would take far longer than this video can allow, so instead I'm going to highlight a few of the cruiser options that stand out to me. First is the Oni cruiser, and this is one of the most important cruisers that you can build in the box. The reason for this is simple. The Oni can act as a flagship. If this starter set is the only Empire fleet product you own, you'll almost certainly want to build at least one Oni so that you have a command vessel leading your fleet. Stat-wise, the Oni is very representative of the Japanese style within the Empire faction. It's sturdy, reliable, and fairly straightforward. With solid defense, armor, and hull values, it can absorb a respectable amount of punishment, while still delivering meaningful firepower. In its standard configuration, the Oni carries both gun batteries and torpedoes, giving it a balanced offensive profile against surface ships and submarines alike. You can also swap some of those weapons out for corrosive mortars, turning it into more of a long-range support vessel, capable of bombarding enemies indirectly from the back lines. Personally, though, I prefer the classic configuration because it lets the ship get stuck into the fighting. Another cruiser that I think will be a very popular build option from this kit is the Hokkaido Heavy Cruiser. If the Oni is a command ship, the Hokkaido is a dedicated combat cruiser. It has similar core statistics, but replaces command abilities with additional firepower and weapon options. This ship gains the focused rule on its weapons, which helps it generate more effective hits during attacks. A squadron of 2 or 3 Hokkaidos working together can become a serious threat on the tabletop. They're essentially the fleet's frontline bruisers, ships that you can push forward into the heart of battle. The third cruiser I want to mention is the Yamaguchi. This one is interesting because it's designed more as a support ship rather than a direct combat vessel. One of its notable upgrades is a flight deck, but unlike many carriers in the game, this one specifically launches Rin exosubs, not fighters. This allows the ship to reinforce or expand nearby submarine SRS groups, which can be extremely useful for harassing enemy ships. The Yamaguchi can also take a Moonpool upgrade, which improves the effectiveness of boarding actions and works particularly well alongside certain escort units. So while it might not look as intimidating as some other cruisers, it offers some really interesting tactical options. Finally, we come to the smaller ships in the box. You get 3 hulls that can be built either as Kyoto fast frigates or Sakata heavy destroyers. The Kyoto is a light, fast vessel designed primarily for harassment and support roles. It's quick, agile, and benefits from the Hunter capital rule, which allows it to reroll blank attack dice when targeting larger ships. In larger squadrons, they can actually deliver a surprising amount of firepower relative to their cost. The Sakata destroyer, on the other hand, is a bit tougher and more aggressive. It trades some of the speed for additional weapons and greater durability, making it better suited for fighting alongside your cruisers. So that's my quick look for the Empire Starter Battlefleet for Dystopian Wars. If I were building the set for myself, I'd probably assemble it as 1 Oni cruiser, 2 Hokkaido heavy cruisers, and 3 Sakata destroyers. That gives you a solid starter fleet that can function on the tabletop right away, while leaving plenty of room to expand later with larger ships or additional squadrons. But that's just my take. Let me know in the comments how you'd build the ships from this box, because with this amount of customization, there are a lot of interesting possibilities. Now it's time to start clipping parts off the sprues and to get building. The Empire has some conquering to do. I'll be back soon with more miniature painting tutorials, product reviews, and terrain tips. In the meantime, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider joining my Patreon. Right now, there's also an extra benefit for members at all tiers, even free members, and that's an exclusive guide to mastering miniature painting theory. This handcrafted PDF will enhance your painting skills. I pretty much guarantee it. And best of all, you can get it completely free as a thank you for taking interest in miniature landscape hobbies. Just sign up for the free Patreon membership tier. No credit card required, no strings attached. Lastly, if you'd like to purchase the Empire Starter Battle Set, or any other product from the series of games featuring the Dystopian Age, then please check out the link to Wayland Games in the video description. This is an affiliate link, so any purchases you make support the channel, and I'd really appreciate that. See you next time for more miniature gaming, painting, and diorama videos. But most importantly, until then, remember to keep building life in miniature.